I liked the area in which me and my parents lived. It was secluded with around 80 houses or so and was up in the mountains. My dad was a mountain ranger and worked until 9 p.m. One night he came home at around 6 p.m, which was odd. He would unlock the door, get something to eat, sit on the sofa and then head off to bed. But for some reason, he came in and didn't grab any food. He just sat on the sofa with his head in his hands, not moving. "Dad, you all right?" I asked. "Derek went missing 3 days ago," he said with a sad look on his face. "Nobody has been able to locate him using the tracker. His family are overcome with worry. Derek has been his partner for the last 4 years. He started working with my dad when he was 26 years old." Mum walked into the kitchen and spoke to Dad. They then walked over to me and said, "We don't know what's going on. So from now on, don't answer the door or leave it unlocked. We have our own keys, okay?" I nodded. Clearly there was a good reason for these new rules. I then went to sleep. I didn't have to get up early as it was winter half term. I got up the next morning and Mum was saying bye to Dad, but they seemed on edge and quickly pecked each other on the cheek, and Dad left for work. Dad came home at the usual time, but he knocked on the door. I knew it was him as I'd seen him pull up. I opened the door and my dad was furious. I disobeyed what he'd said previously about not answering or unlocking the door. He was really annoyed with me, and Mum was trying to keep the peace by being quiet. She decided to ask Dad if anyone had heard anything about Derek yet. His body was discovered this morning, down by Waterbourne Creek. "We must be serious now. This thing isn't safe. Having heard people's stories and testimonies surrounding Derek, this thing is very smart. It can pose as other people and get into their homes and lives by pretending to be someone they're not." Dad looked sad and said, "I love you, son. Can you let me and your mum talk, please?" I stood up and went to my room and tried listening, but I couldn't fully make out what was being said. It sounded like they said Derek's body was 2 weeks old, even though he'd only been missing 4 days and was found this morning. So who has been living with his family during those 2 weeks? I suddenly heard a knock at the window which made my heart stop. I couldn't see anything outside as it was too dark, but they knocked again. "Dave, please could you let me in?" he said. "Wait, that was my father's voice." "Dad, why are you outside?" I asked. He took a moment to respond. "I came out here to investigate a noise I'd heard and got locked out. It's freezing." I was unsure what to do when a figure emerged in my doorway. It was my dad. He told me to keep quiet by putting his finger to his lips. "Dave!" the voice outside questioned. My dad yelled so loudly that I jumped. "Stay away from my family and move yourself from my house!" The voice outside didn't respond. I could just hear slight growling as though a cat was purring near my head. My dad hugged me and was glad I didn't let that thing in. Dad took the next day off work. He wanted to stay and protect Mum and me from that thing. It was around 9 p.m. when someone knocked on the door. "It's just Dad, Dave. I think I've left my keys indoors." My mum was getting worried now, and my dad said, "I'm glad you came, as I'm home already and wanted to catch you with your guard down." We heard a yelp-like sound and something running away. "What was that thing?" my mum asked. "I don't know, but it's determined to get in." Dad radioed a few ranger friends, who came by and noticed holes had been dug in attempts to get in. They went for a quick search with Dad, and Mum kept the door locked. I went up to my room to try relax, and my dad rang a few hours later to inform us he was coming back. Mum just nodded on the other end of the phone, like she had no emotions. Dad walked in through the door. He immediately shouted, "Who left the door unlocked?" My mum said, "Nobody has tried to come in or knock, don't worry." Dad looked about and relaxed a little, and we each went to our rooms. Waking up the next morning, the house was empty. My parents weren't in their room, and the front door was open. A disgusting smell led me to their bedroom and up to their wardrobe. As I opened it, I realized why it was so important to keep the doors locked. I saw my mum's body, her neck twisted. She had been killed. I began to cry. Then I noticed something. My mum doesn't have a mole on her cheek. Her eyes didn't look proportional. This thing wasn't my mum. Just then, my actual mum and dad came into the house with the police. They said they were sorry and were going to explain when I'd woken up, saying it was a woman that was furious that Dad got her a parking fine and tried to hurt us. But I knew they were lying to protect me. I knew that this thing was dangerous and smart. It could manipulate faces and voices. I was so thankful that it was now dead. As my dad and me walked to our car so the investigation could carry on, I looked up at my dad and I noticed something. Has he always had brown hair?